So Mercedes, it's kind of a strange season for them, and I found them quite a difficult team to grade really in my mid-season grades. Do go check that out if you haven't already. Of course, I would really appreciate it. But spoiler alert, I gave them a pretty middle-of-the-road grade because while they have improved from 4th place in the Constructors' Championship to currently in P3 with a chance of getting P2, their customer team McLaren are miles clear at the top, and you have to ask what Mercedes are doing wrong. Clearly, they have a car that is nowhere near what that car potentially could be in a sense, you know. You've got McLaren absolutely miles clear, and even Ferrari, even though they've been incredibly inconsistent this season and even have a double DSQ at the Chinese Grand Prix, they're ahead of them. They're ahead of them right now. It's tight, but they are ahead of them. But James Allison, one of the brightest minds in Formula 1 in my opinion, is only really, off the top of my head, Adrian Newey that I would put markedly ahead of him. Allison's really smart too when it comes to designing cars, of course. And he's been working for Mercedes for quite some time now, and obviously he understands the car very well. And he's given the reason why Mercedes might not quite be on it compared to McLaren and a lot of their rivals right now. Full article here on the F1Chronicle.com, guys. Let's go through it. James Allison has pinpointed tyre management as the key weakness behind Mercedes' erratic 2025 form and the area where dominant McLaren has a clear edge. Those water tyres. Can't forget the water tyres, can we, guys, now? We're in a yo-yo effect between winning on our own merits and having bad weekends like we had in Austria and England, the Mercedes technical director told Automotor und Sport. You don't have to be a great expert to realise that this World Championship is about who can best control the tyre temperatures, and that is certainly not us. I think he's right, to be honest. I really do agree with him on that one, because you look at the difference in qualifying, there's not really a lot. In fact, I believe Max Verstappen has the joint most pole positions this year so far. I think he's tied with Oscar Piastri. But the difference in the race is incredible, and that's all because of tyre management. Over one lap, McLaren probably are the fastest, but there's not really a lot between them and the rest of the field. However, over a long stint, when you're of course managing the tyres, McLaren are absolutely leaps and bounds ahead, and Mercedes do tend to struggle, particularly in hot temperatures. Allison said modern ground effect cars and reduced tyre preheating have made the challenge even harder to model. Two things are converging that make it more difficult today than before, he explained. One is the limited preheating of the tyres in conjunction with ground effect cars, which place significantly more demands on the tyres in high-speed corners. The thermal stress will be greater than in the past. He also warned that limited testing and incomplete tyre data mean that teams are flying blind on key parameters. The rules prevent us from understanding tyres better. We are hardly allowed to test them. Not like in 2013, eh? Totally not a controversial incident there with the Mercedes, but let's skip past that. The only way to better understand the tyre behaviour empirically is through Grand Prix weekends, but there are so many other things to do. Ferrari boss Fred Vasseur agrees tyres are the central issue in 2025. Tyre management is not just the deciding factor for the 2025 season, but it's a 25-year-old problem, said Vasseur. Whoever can get the tyres into the best working window the fastest and keep them there has an even more significant impact when the field is as close together as it is today. And that is precisely where McLaren's big advantage lies. I think even McLaren would probably admit that. I mean, you know, those thermal imaging cameras that Red Bull pulled on them in Miami, I think it was, something like that. You know, that really did prove that, in their eyes anyway. We've not seen the data on it, but they say that their tyres are significantly cooler than what Red Bulls are and the rest of the pack. So they've clearly got some way of cooling those tyres down, particularly at the end of a long stint. They have much better control of the temperatures. Now, does that mean that Pirelli's tyres are not up to scratch? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It's all about understanding. You know, I don't think these tyres are wrong at all. I think these tyres at the moment from Pirelli, they really do strike a good balance between having tyres that are hard enough to push, but also quick enough to go fast if you really want to push limits in qualifying. I think they've really got on top of it, Pirelli. You know, this is their 15th season as the sole tyre supplier of Formula 1. And if you look at their early days, 2011, 2013 was an absolute mess at times. It really was. Those days are long behind us, and I think Pirelli does a good job now. And I'm sure there'll be some people crying out for the old days. I remember those days. Bridgestone, Michelin, tyre wars. I remember those days, and I don't want to go back to them. I'll be honest. I think it's a differentiating factor that makes certain conditions very difficult for cars just purely based upon their actual tyres, which I don't think's right. You know, I remember, I think the Bridgestones for a long time in the early to mid 2000s, they were a lot better in the wet conditions. The Michelins were absolutely useless. So that's why Ferrari pretty much used to, I mean, Ferrari won a lot during those days, and we'll talk about that sometime, I'm sure, on the channel. But you know what I mean, guys? I mean, it's not perfect by any means, and I've spoken about this before in my V10 video. But yeah, I think Pirelli are doing a good job, and I think it's just mainly the fact that there's not enough testing really to understand the tyres as what they used to be. But is variety not the spice of life? Do we not want more unpredictability? Is that the whole ethos behind this sort of thing? Your thoughts in the comments below, guys. I want to hear what you have to say about this. Do you agree with Allison that it's really become a tyre formula in a sense? And I don't really disagree with that sentiment, to be honest, but should something be done about it? Should we go back to multiple tyre suppliers? Should we have harder tyres? Should we have more testing purely for tyres? I'm not so sure about a lot of those, I'll be honest, but I want to hear what you have to say as always, guys. Like, share, comment, subscribe as always, and have a great day in the world today, guys. See you very soon.